Hello and welcome to Noninkables. This is going to be podcast number 10. Also, will just be a regular video on the YouTube channel as a competition recap. So we just finished weekend 1 of set championships for Ursula's return. Originally, we were supposed to play 2 set championships this weekend, but the first one we were unable to play in, and I'm pretty peeved about that. Which I will go into in detail. And then the second one, we just finished and our team did great. And so I will talk about that. Before I get into all of that, though, I'm going to do a quick little recap about next week. So next week, we're going to be competing in 2 set championships again over the weekend. Next week, we will be at Games of Martinez, which is where I won last set. And then we will be at Phantomich, which is or Phantomich, I always pronounce it wrong, which is our usual home base, I would say, where we go the most. That was where I did my first tournament, and it was a sealed. And it was only, I think, $30, and you get 6 packs, and then each round you win, you get a pack. And so I was like, okay, well, in that case, then it's really anytime I win, I'm making money, essentially, because I'm already getting the 6 packs. So everything is a bonus. And so that's kind of what convinced me to go, as opposed to, because before that I was like, oh, I really don't want to compete because it's scary. And what if people are mean, blah, 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 But because of that, I was like, okay, I can go. So yeah, that's where we will be next week. So Games of Martinez and then Phantomich. And then, And then in terms of what YouTube video I'm going to publish, I'm still unsure. It's kind of hard to, I think, make content, but I want to prep more for championships, so kind of hard to decide. So Saturday, we were supposed to compete at Games of Berkeley. And we had both signed up on Melee on June 14th, so super far in advance, right? We signed up, we got a confirmation from Melee, hey, you are registered for this new Arcana challenge. I read through the entire description, and it just the usual, the organizer agrees to pay within 60 days and blah, 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 whatever pricing, the usual stuff. And then even 2 weeks ago when I was making the podcast, I went back and looked at all the signups and looked totally fine. I am part of the Discord for that store. We have played at that store before in a sealed. Then on, I think Thursday on the Discord, they were hey, if you're signed up for this tournament, you should have gotten an email about how to submit deck lists, blah, 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 right? And then I was like, I didn't get an email. And then Brian didn't get an email either. And so then I went and looked, and I was like, yeah, we're signed up on Melee. But then I looked, and then on Melee description, in a new thing, it said this Melee registration doesn't count. You have to buy a ticket on Games of Berkeley, which it didn't say before. And I thought maybe oh, maybe I missed it. But then I talked to several other people, and they said the same thing. They signed up super early, and it didn't say anything about you had to buy a ticket on Games of Berkeley. They never announced it in their Discord that tickets were even available. So I think they probably just announced it on League. And their League night, I can't go to because that's the night I normally work. So yeah. So then I contacted the person who was in charge of running it. I was like, hey, we signed up almost a month ago and had a confirmation from Melee. And he was like, well, did you read the Melee? And I was like, yeah, when I signed up, it didn't say that. And also, it doesn't notify you when you've changed the description. And he was like, well, I can put you on the wait list. And I was like, okay, please put us on the wait list. If anyone drops, let us know. Or if anyone doesn't show up, let us know. Also, are you going to increase the cap at all? And they were like, no, we're not going to increase the cap. This is what it is. And so we're like, okay, fine. So we didn't hear from them. And we're like, I guess are unlucky that I didn't go back and check again after I checked initially. After I signed up initially and then checked 2 weeks prior, I didn't check a third time, I guess. And so, yeah. And so we didn't go because we never heard from them. And then we were talking to some people today who went. So one person had also done the same thing where they signed up on Melee. And when they signed up, it didn't say anything about you had to buy a ticket on Games of Berkeley. And so they had called and had been told the wait list was full. And so they couldn't even be on the wait list. Someone else 2 other people, I think, had signed up on Melee and then were dropped from it the day before. And then they had called and were basically told like, no, you're not part of this, and you can't be part of this. And then we had some friends who said they just showed up because they were like, well, we'll just go to IKEA if we can't play. And then they got added. So they added 2 people above what they said their cap was, which was 32. So they had 34 people. And then our friends who just went got to play. So I'm a little peeved that, 1, they changed the description on Melee. 2, they didn't announce it in their Discord. They didn't announce that they changed the description on Melee through Melee at all. And like, just I feel like there's a lot of LGSs that want to do their own sign up, not through Melee, because then I guess they don't have to pay the Melee fee. But then they just make it so that you have to have an entry code to sign up on Melee, or they just make it so you can't sign up on Melee at all. They just say go to the website and then buy a ticket there, and then we'll sign you up the day of, which I feel like is more clear. But I don't know, maybe it's their way to gatekeep it so that it's only their league people. But also, like, if you're going to say there's a cap to 32, like, you should keep the cap at 32 and not just let people in the day of, I just want some consistency. So pretty peeved about that. I mean, it's more just like the injustice of it all, I guess, that bothers me, because we signed up and got like a confirmation, and then the fact that it wasn't laid out clearly when they made the event, and they like changed the rules later but didn't announce anything. So I'm pretty angry about that, I would say. And then I thought I had I had looked online, and there was a game store that was going to run a set championship on Saturday that was like an hour and a half away. And I was like, oh, we'll just go to that one. That'll be totally fine. So we signed up. And then on Friday, the day before, they moved the event to the next weekend. And so we had signed up, I think, like on Tuesday or Wednesday, and I'd emailed them and was like, hey, I just want to make sure we signed up on Melee and that that is what is happening. Like, we don't have to do anything else. We don't have to call. We don't have to go in person. We don't have to sign up somewhere else because, it's happened to us before. Never got a response. And then we were just double, triple checking all of our signups after the whole Games of Berkeley thing. I was like, let me just check again. And then I checked again on Melee, and they moved it to the next weekend. We didn't get an email that they moved it. They didn't announce it in their Discord that I saw anyways. And so I messaged them. I was like, hey, I emailed them, and like they didn't respond. So then I found them on Instagram, and I messaged them on Instagram, and I was like, hey, it was World Champion cards in Fairfield. And I was like, hey, I saw that you moved your set championships to the next weekend. Why? And basically they hadn't received any of the stuff from Ravensburger, which I think is pretty common. The place we played at today didn't have their stuff. And they were like, oh yeah, we moved it because we didn't have all the stuff. And I was like, hey, I think that's happened a lot. And then people were just giving out the prizing later. And they were like, oh, well, we don't want to mail like 32 prizes, which, doesn't really make sense. Also, like, just make it that the people have to come back and pick it up, because I would totally pick it up. So we were excited for like a day when we were like, oh, we found this other competition to go to. And then it didn't happen. So that didn't happen either. Yeah. So we didn't get to compete on Saturday. So we spent the day kind of testing our decks and resleeving and that kind of stuff. Today we played at Victory Point Cafe, and like they didn't have sign up on Melee. Like they had the event, so you knew it was happening, and it said like sign up on the website. And then on the website you buy a ticket. It's very clear. Big fan of that. And it's a place we normally play at on Thursdays. And with our ticket, we got 1 free booster pack and a free drink because it's a cafe, so free non-alcoholic drink, which is awesome. And we played 6 rounds of Swiss, best of 2, and then top 8 cut. And so the whole team was there. So me, Brian, and Tyler. I will go through, I guess, I don't know Tyler's results because he just finished. And so I haven't asked him yet. But Brian played Green Steel. I played Ruby Amethyst, and Tyler played Sapphire Steel. And so Brian played in first round Blue-Red and Drew. I guess that person had switched to Blue-Red yesterday. I don't know what they played before. Round 2, he played Blue-Red again and Drew. Round 3, he played Red-Purple and 2-0'd that person. That person is someone that we play against, I wouldn't say regularly anymore because he hasn't come in a while. But set 3, we played against him more. And he's the person I beat in the semifinals at Games of Martina set 3. And Brian said that he hadn't really like adapted to the meta for set 4 yet. And so like playing against Green Steel, he just didn't have any cards. He got double buckied. Round 4, he played against a mirror match, so Green Steel, and got O2'd. I think that person had Grab Your Swords in his deck, which was very helpful. Round 5, he played against Green Purple, aggro, and then drew. And then round 6, he played against Red Yellow Mufasa deck. And they had a gentleman's agreement because it was kind of like everybody, there was a ton of people who were on the bubble because of the best of 2. And so they agreed that whoever won the first game would just win the whole thing, just to see if that person had a chance to get into top 8. Because if they drew, neither of them would make it into top 8. I don't know who Tyler played, so I can't give you that information, but I can tell you who I played. So first round, I played a purple steel Jafar wheel deck, and I was doing pretty good. I got to 18 lore. They were at 10, and then I got to 11, and then they were able to sing A Whole New World with Jafar and literally had exactly 7 cards left in their deck. So they didn't deck out, which was like, and that game took so long. I think it took us like 35 minutes for that game. And so I lost the first game. And then second game, I won because I bounced a bunch of goats. I think it was like 15-7, and then I just played a bunch of goats and won. Yeah, but we were the last people playing that round, so everyone was waiting for us. But that was crazy because I thought he was going to mill himself, and then he had just enough cards. So I drew the first one. The second one, I played a mirror match into red purple, and I 2-0'd them, but it was also like a child. I think he was, I don't know, I want to say like 8 or 10 years old. I can't really tell with kids how old they are. And so, yeah. And he had this very cool like rubber holder thing for all of his cards. And so instead of holding them in his hand, he just put them on the little rubber holder thing, and it had like levels, which I thought was pretty sweet. And his dad also plays. His dad, I think, plays Green Steel, and I've played him before and lost. Yeah, but he was very cute, and I felt bad. And then like the second match, he wanted to make the like Flynn Rider Sisu combo work. But he was on the draw, so I had less cards than him anyways. And also, like, he didn't play a turn once, then he had more cards than my Sisu, kind of ruined his plans. And I think the problem was he kept trying to make it work, and I kept just putting stronger stuff. And I felt bad, because the second one, he was like, can you just let me win this match? And I was like, sorry, man. Any other day I would, but there is stuff on the line, so I cannot. My third round, I played a red-blue deck who had played Brian the round before. So he was really funny. He was like, oh, I just played your husband. And I was like, okay, well, prepare to play me. And that one, the first game, I got that Chernobog, Flynn, Sisu, Castle thing, and basically got to 20 before he could do anything or get any lore. It was pretty brutal. I was on the play. And then the second one, I think I got to 10 before he got any lore, and then it was kind of just like eking, and then I won. So I 2-0'd him. My fourth round, I played red-purple mirror match, and it was someone who I think he had like the best record going in to that round out of everybody, because I think after the second round, I think he lost maybe the round right before mine, but otherwise he was undefeated, so he had the highest score. In that one, I lost 0-2. He was playing red purple. He had kind of like not the standard build, I suppose. He had like Peter Pan Shadow which has Rush, and he had Jim Hawkins, which I used to have in my deck, and then it didn't always work out great, so I took it out, but worked for him. And then I think my problem with those was I just didn't have the card draw, so he had so many more cards than me both games. But both games, it was super close. We were like pretty even on lore all the way up. Round 5, I played Green Steel, and we drew. The first round, he got a double bucky, And so it died. And I couldn't draw Be Prepared, which would have so helped me. And then the second round, I won because he didn't get a Bucky. And I feel like that's kind of how it is with green steel sometimes. So in between rounds 5 and 6, there was some hardcore math going on with the people on the table next to me. And it was someone he was playing green steel, and initially he was supposed to play me, and he'd seen my deck already, so he was like, oh, I really want to play you because it's favored towards me. And then we figured out that somebody had like left and not actually officially dropped, so then they repaired it, and then I ended up avoiding him and playing another green steel, and he ended up playing like sapphire steel, which is not as great of a matchup for him. And so he was like, he was like doing a lot of math to see who would make it in. And then in the end, it was like really based on how everyone else did. And then everyone was on the bubble, blah, blah, blah. And then he was like, I hope I get matched with you next round. I hope I get matched with you. And I was like, I hope you don't get matched with me because I don't want to play green steel again. And it was so funny because he kept being like, I want to play you. If I played you, it would have been in top 8. And I was like, sorry. Lucky if I might hide. Yeah, so funny. But they were doing so much math. And I was like, this is intense, guys. It's a lot of probability. There's a lot of moving parts, especially with best of 2. And so I'm just going to play and see what happens. Because I think last set, I didn't expect to make top 8 that set either. And they're like, oh, if you 2-0 this match, you'll get into top 8. And I was like, what? But I've lost so many games. How is that possible? So, I mean, I feel like the moral of the story is just play it out. If you're truly in like the last round and the other person has 2-0 to make it in, maybe have a gentleman's agreement. I feel like it's kind, and like there's no benefit to you to fight them and draw, and so that you both can't make it in, you know what I mean? I don't know. Although I guess for the other people, like if you both drew and knocked yourselves out, that would help other people. But I don't know. I feel like it's whatever either way. I just feel like a lot of people have the gentleman's agreement, and I'm just kind of sad I didn't. And I had to fight for my place. But it was so funny because even after he was leaving and he was like, if I had played you. And I was like, sorry. You never know. Maybe I would have beaten you. Round 6, I played another mirror match, red-purple. And literally, okay, so I think going into round 6, the front 2 tables I ID'd, so intentionally drew because they were going to be in for sure. And then the next like 6 or 7 tables were all kind of on the bubble. So if they 2-0'd, they would get in. If they didn't, then they wouldn't. And so literally every single table, except for mine, was like, oh, if whoever wins the first, they either did like whoever wins the first game will win the whole thing, because then maybe one of them will get into the top cut. Or I think the table next to us initially didn't do that. And then afterwards, people were like, hey, do you guys want to 2-0 so that maybe one of you can make it in? And then they like rolled a dice because they had actually drew. My person made me earn my spot. So we were playing, it was a mirror match. The first round, I went first and I just ran. Like I got to 19 lore, 20 lore, and they were at 2. And so it was good. It was good for me. I think they didn't play anything on 1 and maybe played like a Flynn on 2. And then I just opted to, I played a Flynn and then a Sisu, and then I think they killed my Flynn after 2 turns, and then I just could quest and bounce and all that stuff. So it was like, and then the second game, I was on the draw. In that game, there were, I would say maybe like 6 or 7 turns where neither of us could keep anything on the board. So starting from turn 6, I think like he played a Medusa, and then I played a Tremaine, and then he played a Medusa, and then I played a Be King Undisputed, and like a Maleficent to draw a card, and then he played a Be Prepared, and then I played a Be. It was just like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We couldn't keep anything on the board for so many round turns, and I thought that I was gonna run out of like kill things, banishing things, because I know that I only run 3 Be King Undisputeds, 3 Medusas, 1 Tremaine, and 4 Be Prepareds. And I think his was probably the deck that probably ran like 2 Tremaines, so 1 more kill thing than me. Yeah, but it was just every turn it was like ink, something to get rid of the other person's character, ink, something to get rid of their board. So it's just constant back and forth. And it was kind of like, At one point, it's like 11 and 13, and then I got 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and they got to 15 points, and I got to 18 points. And then I think when I said I had 18 points, they were like, oh, you have 18 points, because they had not, like, kept track, I guess, of my lore, even though every time I was like, I'm questing for 1. I get 1 for goat, and I am now at this. I, like, announced it every time, because I wanted it to be super clear. So I ended up winning 2-0. So I got in. I was number 6, so into the top 8, and I was like, so exciting. That was like the whole goal was to get into the top 8. But I really had to earn my spot there versus all the people who had gentlemen's agreements. Yeah. I think Brian said he got the vibe that guy was like, I don't want to move to a girl. Which, you know, it happens. Whereas I'm just like, I want to be like Elle Woods. I'm like, is that hard? And just beat the boys. So unfortunately in top 8, I got matched with Tyler, our team member, who I have literally never beat. Except for when he came over to test and he wanted to like try out green steel, even though he hates on green steel so much. So we played 6 games where he played green steel, and I won every time because he never drew Bucky, or he would get Bucky and no Floodborns, or he would get no Bucky, and then I don't think he ever saw Diablo because he kept being like, are there we're like, yeah, there's 4 of them. But he just had such bad luck, and he was like, okay, so I'm not playing green steel. Yeah, so my goal, literally, I was like, I just want to win 1 game because I have never won against him. And I have played him, I think, my Ruby Amethyst with his blue steel. And we were playing at a tournament. It was like super chill. So like he was literally like coaching me while we were playing. He was like, oh, I wouldn't banish your Turnibogs because blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, okay, this turn, you know that I have this. So I may play like grab your swords next turn. So through that coaching, I almost won. I was at like 18 or 19 lore, I think. And he was going to concede. And I was like, no, you should try and see if you can find it out. He played a Grammatala, drew the card he needed, and then got 18 lore in 1 turn and beat me. And so I literally have never beat him. So my goal was to just win. Spoiler, I didn't. So our top 8 was best of 3, which I feel like is harder for me, I guess. I don't know, because I'm so used to best. I don't know if it's harder for me or not harder for me. It's just, I was so nervous playing Tyler, and we knew that our next game was probably going to be against green steel, and I was like, oh, but your deck is better against green steel than mine. I was like, maybe I should let him through, and I was like, no, we're just going to play. We're going to see what happens. I was like, maybe I'll get really lucky, and he'll get really unlucky, and then maybe I'll make it. I don't know. First, we did a die roll. I won. I went first. First game, I got to 20 lore, and he was at 1 lore, which, I mean, for blue steel is, like, pretty common. But I was able to, I think, Sisu, and then just quest, castle, quest, you know, and win. Second one, he was on the play, I was on the draw, and I don't remember what happened, but based on the notes, it's like I got 1 lore and then I got 4. So then I probably had a Flynn, and then he probably killed my Flynn. And then he just kept gaining lore, and I was stuck at 4. And he was, at one point, he was at 16 and I was at 5. So he dimed and won. And then the last game, I was on the play and I got to 14 lore and he was at 9. And then he was able to put 2 lucky dimes on the board. And then at one point, Tamatoa, and get like 8 lore. No, like 10. He could have basically in 1 turn gotten like 15 lore, and so he won. But I won 1 game against him for my percent against Tyler. So that's very exciting for me. Also very exciting that someone from Noninkables went to the top 4. And then in the semifinals, he played the red-purple deck that I had played in round 4, so the one with like Jim Hawkins and Peter Pan Shadow. He beat that person 2-1. And then in the final, I think it was a mirror against another Sapphire Steel deck. So a final with 2 Sapphire Steel is pretty cool. And he won. So Tyler, Team Noninkables, won the whole thing. Yay! So very exciting because everybody else in that top 4 was not local. And so, I mean, Tyler hasn't played at Victory Point before. I think because of his schedule. But he's at least Bay Area local. And so we were like, yay, home team win. Because there were a lot of people who came from very far places. So like somebody from Turlock, which I think is like 2 hours away. The red-purple person that he came from Raccoon Bay, which is like 3 or 4 hours away. I don't know. At least 3 hours. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention. So I was wearing my Fitbit, and when I first started playing Tyler in the quarterfinals, I was so nervous. And I was like, I feel my heart pounding. And I was like, I wonder what my heart rate is. And I looked at my Fitbit with 165. That is like peak heart rate when you're running high. So burned lots of calories, I guess, today from being nervous. That could also be like the coffee and matcha latte I had, but I don't think so. I think it was really just nerves. So yeah, that is how our weekend went. Saturday was, and I'm still kind of peeved about it. Games of Berkeley, seriously. And then today was super fun. It was really funny because there was some people playing today, and they're like, I'm having so much fun. They were like, we played yesterday, like down in South Bay, and like it was not fun. It was so serious. But today I'm having so much fun. I was like, that is my favorite, is when everyone is having fun and we're playing and we're having fun, because that's the whole point of the game. And so, yeah, great result for Team Noninkables. So rank 1 and rank 6. And then I think Brian ended up being 13 out of a total of, let's see, I think there were 40 people. So really good, I think, for our team. Right up there. Yeah, so excited. I will probably be playing the same deck next weekend, just because I think, one, I'm pretty comfortable playing red purple. Also, I paid the $5 for Kendall primer, which was actually very helpful because it changed how I play green steel. I mean, it didn't help with the double Bucky, but I think if there was only one Bucky, I would have been fine. And I don't know if Brian's going to play the same deck. I think he may go to like Emerald Amethyst. I'm not sure. And then I think Tyler's going to stick with Sapphire Steel. It really suits him. He is very good at doing all the math with all the lore and all the different pieces, and just getting like, there was when we were playing, he did the 18 lore in one turn on me, and then there was another person he was playing, and he was going to concede in like just from his mulligan hand because it was so bad, and he ended up winning. So, as a team, I'm like, Tyler, so my coaching to you, what I can offer, because it's not skill stuff, is don't give up, because you will find a way. You will always find a way. And then sometimes I mention that he did that 18 lore in one turn, and people are like, oh yeah, he's done that to me too. So comment for him. Yeah, so I will. And then I think he has pretty good luck with blue steel in terms of drawing the cards he needs. Just like, I feel like I have pretty good luck with ruby amethyst. Like when I need to top deck a Be Prepared or a Beaking Undisputed or something, or a rabbit, I tend to get it more often than not. I feel like the deck likes me, and I feel like that's a lot of I mean, I'm sure statistically that's not true, but I feel that way, and I feel like confidence sometimes does help you win, because I know when I play Amber Steel, I get only singers or only songs, and when I play Green Steel, I never get the Bucky Diablo combo. And I played, like, my sample size is small, it's like 10 games, but I feel like that's enough to not like it. So yeah, I think we'll probably all stay with the same decks going forward. It's interesting because prior to this, I was playing Luca Serrano's deck. So with the 3 Beaking Undisputeds, 3 Medusas, 2 Tremaines, 4 Be Prepared, and only 4 1-drops. And then we were testing with Tyler and Gary earlier this week. And Gary, he hasn't played Lord Connor really since set 2, but was a pro Magic player, and so like really good. He said that the first Lord Connor tournament he went to, he learned to play 15 minutes before the tournament started, and then he won the tournament. So that tells you what kind of skill he has. And it was so funny because he kept jokingly trying to convince me to add Ursula, Power Hungry, the first chapter Ursula, where you play this card, and I think your opponents lose the lore and you draw a card or something like that. It's Noninkables 7 cost. He was like, you should play that. And I was like, no. And because of like that testing, I had tested like Maui's Hook, because it gives evasive, and you can make it so that your other characters can attack a castle, because I was expecting a lot of mirrors. And then it didn't really work. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should just add in crabs. So I had done that. And then like Pendle had updated his thing, I think the Friday before, was like last minute update, add 2 crabs, take out a Tremaine and a Maleficent. And then I was like, oh, we had the same idea. I'm getting better. I'm thinking like a pro. So silly. But yeah, so I would say this time I'm not quite a noob anymore. And I feel like I've put in a lot of work. I'm going to put in some more work, and hopefully I mean, we have those two next week, Games of Martinez, Bantamich. And then the next week after that, we're going to the Lorcana Challenge. And then the week after that, we have currently just one. And there's actually two in our area that are going on. And Tyler is going to NorCal TCG. And then we're going to go to King Kong so that our team is separated and so that hopefully we can win more. It doesn't happen like today where we get matched against each other in top 8 because that is not the goal. The goal was to hopefully match together in top 4 so that we would all at least get a Ursula card. But we're going to split up that last weekend. There is supposedly one at Games of Concord the last Saturday of the month. However, I messaged them on Discord and they said, oh, we're still working out some final details. However, last set, they were supposed to have one and they canceled. And then one of the people we usually play with knows some people there. And then he's like, yeah, don't know what happened to the set championship stuff. Don't know if they sent it back or if they didn't send it back. But all of a sudden, one day it was like no longer there at the store. So maybe a little fishy. And then there is theory that maybe the person who's supposed to run it, like the tournament organizer, doesn't want to run it. And so then they like don't open up signups and they just tell the owner of the store like, hey, nobody signed up. And then it gets canceled. I don't know. It's a little fishy. If it happens again, I feel like I'm going to report them to Ravensburger. Yeah. So, and then I did look to see if there were other ones kind of a little further away for that Saturday, since I cleared out my schedule for weekends this month, just so I could compete. And I think there is one further south, but they are only, I joined their Discord, and then in their Discord, they said that they were only going to give entry codes to the people who play in their league, which we don't because it's really far away. Not really far, like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, but it's like during high traffic time, so really like 4 hours. And I had called their store before I joined the Discord, and the person at the store was like, oh yeah, you can sign up on Melee. And I was like, oh, Melee says you need an entry code. Where do I find the entry code? They're like, it's on Melee. And I was like, it's not on Melee. It's like, it'll be there in a few days. And I was like, okay, are you sure? I feel like you don't know what's going on. So yeah, so hopefully we will have 3 more set championships to try to win, the Ursula mat or card or both, and then of course the challenge. But that is it. Let me know what else you guys want me to talk about. Thanks for tuning in. Check out our TCG store. It's now a pro store, so that's pretty cool. I don't know what the difference is, but it does say it's like noninkables.tcgplayerpro.com, which I feel like is pretty cool. I don't know because Brian handled all of that. So I have no idea what's going on there. I just buy cards and then give him ones to sell. And then he sells them. Oh, I did want to mention, I was playing myself to try to play the mirror for red purple. But turns out, because I am myself for both sides, the skill level is the same on both sides. And so then it just comes down to luck, which is not very helpful in terms of practicing. So I do not recommend that if you're going to play yourself with the same deck, like a mirror. It's not very helpful. But I think if you're playing a different deck, it might be helpful. Okay, that's truly it. So as always, keep shuffling. Hopefully you don't end up with a whole hand of Noninkables like me. It did happen to me kind of once today when I was playing Green Steel, which was not great. So yeah, bye. Go Team Noninkables.